Hello and welcome to this screencast. This is part one of a two-part presentation on how you could go about the process of translating data within a Microsoft Dynamics system. As with most of the videos I'll be posting in this blog, this is a proof of concept only, and it's by no means representative of how Microsoft would suggest this to be done. For further information, you can always go to my blog. The address is posted down here at the bottom of the screen. Okay, let's get into it. The first place we should start is the Windows Azure Data Market. Let's fire up Internet Explorer. Let me paste the URL address for the data market into the address bar up here. Okay, this has taken us to the front page of the Windows Azure Marketplace. Microsoft hosts a massive cloud-based platform called Azure, and both companies and service providers provide premium data services using this platform. Down here at the bottom of the screen we can see some companies that are providing both application and data style services. You can get a full listing of all of the providers under their respective tab. So if I click the applications tab here, we get a page worth of companies that are providing application style services, and clicking the data tab I'll get a listing of some companies that are providing raw data style services. You can filter based on categories of interest, and you can also punch in some search terms to be able to search all of the providers. So I'm going to just use a search term that I used slightly earlier, put in the word legal up here, and this will filter the list of providers and bring us back anything that's related to search terms that we used. I'm just going to select one of the entries off this list, and I'm going to choose a second entry down. This is the company that I currently work for. You click on one of the entries, it brings up a screen that looks like this, and you get a very brief synopsis of what the service is all about, the publisher date, the categories attached to this particular service, some sample images or output of what you would get if you were to use a service, some technical details relating to the service, specifically the root URL and the methods and signatures that are involved as part of invocation of this service, detailed descriptions relating to the data set, and most importantly the subscription plan. And you can see that for this particular service of $0 per month, we can subscribe to the service, and it will give us information about legal top cases, emerging issues, legal news trends, etc. Alright, that very briefly explains the nature of the Azure platform. We're not actually interested in legal services for the purposes of this demonstration. We want to focus our attention on translation. So let's punch in the search term that will help us find translation services. Okay, and it's brought back a list of application and data providers that relating to our search term, and you can see that the top entry here is the Microsoft Translator. Let's take that option, and the synopsis basically tells us that this is a service provided by Microsoft, chargeable service that provides the same translation features that the previous legacy Bing translator offered. The Bing translator is still available, but it's not available on an application to application basis. Down here at the bottom, if you click the details tab, you'll be able to get hold of the service root URL and get a brief understanding of the methods available, the translation methods, and the data and the parameters that need to be passed when using these methods. On the right hand side we can see all of the relevant subscription plans, ranging from the very heavy duty users that will be potentially translating a billion characters a month, right down to the free offering, the one that suits my pocket and probably any developer that's watching this, of $0 per month, which will allow you a quota of 2 million characters a month. Okay, let's go ahead and subscribe to this service. I'll click the sign up button. Okay, and it will ask you for your Windows Live ID credentials. I'm going to put mine in. Everyone reading the one of the blogs on the Microsoft Dynamics community should have one of these. Okay, it's taken me to a subscription confirmation page. I'm getting a warning message. You wouldn't ordinarily see this message. Basically, this is just telling me that I've already purchased or signed up for the service that I'm attempting to subscribe to. All you've got to do is click on the I've read and agreed to the terms and conditions checkbox down here. Then click the sign up button. Once all of that's happened, click on the My Account tab up here at the top. Now you're going to see a couple of stars pop up in the video. Don't be alarmed, I'm not hiding information. It's just to obfuscate some of the authentication information that's personal to me. Click on the My Data option and you'll be able to go and see that you're now subscribed to the data service. Part of the information that you see on the screen is your quota and how much you've used. As you can see, I'm allowed to translate 2 million characters per month, and I've only used a small fraction of my monthly quota. It's always useful to keep an eye on your available quota, especially if you're going to be doing demonstrations of your solution. Go back to the account information section. You'll notice that two keys are provided, the primary account key and the customer ID. The key that we're interested in is the primary account key. This is the key that we're going to need to use in our Visual Studio solutions in order to perform authentication every time we need to use this service. If I switch over to Visual Studio, I've got the solution open at the method which actually performs the authentication handshake, and this is where we would paste in the key from the previous screen. Ordinarily, it's never a good idea to hard code keys inside Visual Studio projects, but for the purposes of evaluating the service, it's absolutely fine. Right. It's probably best at this point in time to do a little demonstration of the solution. Okay, before I demonstrate the solution functionality within Dynamics, I'm going to demonstrate it within a Windows WPF application first. And the primary reason for doing this is to ensure that all of my features and functions work and that I've ironed out all of the bugs before I actually deploy into that environment, because troubleshooting and debugging is far easier to do within Visual Studio than it is within the Dynamics environment. Okay, here's our WPF class library, and this class library has been included in the same solution as our WPF Windows application. And if I open up the main page for our WPF application, you can see that the XAML footprint is relatively light. We've included a namespace in the header of our XAML page, and this namespace refers to the WPF user control class library. Once you've incorporated that namespace, then you can just reference the class, the user control, using standard XAML meta tags. Okay, let's go ahead and run this solution. Okay, solution's up. This is a very basic note-taking application. Now I'm going to punch in a few test notes into this container. Hello, how are you today? paste that, and probably one more as well. What time is it? Question mark. Right. Let's just choose one of these notes and attempt a translation. The drop down here will perform a translation into one of these target languages, and the list of target languages has been obtained from the list of available languages by the Bing translator. So let me just go to this flashing over here. So let's get back to this, and I'm going to choose a French translation. So just click on that entry, and the hourglass tells me that communication is taking place, and as part of this communication is performing the authentication handshake and invoking the translation. Normally it does take a little bit of time for the first translation, and subsequent translations are relatively quick. So that looks good. I'm not going to attempt to pronounce that, but that looks like a reasonable translation. The Microsoft Translator operates off of context. So now, if I take this translation, take this French translation, and attempt to retranslate it into another language, it will ignore the previous English phrase and it will use the current context, which is the French phrase, to do a further translation. So let's choose something that's going to bring back something that I won't be able to understand, Hindi. And as you can see, the translation on that second subsequent attempt was far quicker, simply because all of the communication channels are still open. It's brought back the Hindi translation of what time is it. I'm going to have to take its word for that, and it's brought it back in the character set of the target language, which is great. Let me just do one more as part of this demonstration, make sure the whole system is behaving itself. This time I'll choose Arabic, and not being able to speak Arabic, I'm assuming that that is a correct and good translation. Right, now that we've got everything working within Windows, we should refocus our attention to Dynamics. Let's close that down. Let's close that down. Okay, we're here now in the Dynamics environment, more specifically inside the development workspace, and we're currently looking at the AOT. I've skipped over a step, and that step was all the information relating to rebuilding, deploying the WPF user control assembly to the Dynamics server, but that's going to be a topic for discussion for another day. I've created a basic test form here, and that test form has just one data source, which is the tax table, and as well as presenting information from the tax table, it has a managed host control. And that managed host control is referring to the assembly that we've previously deployed. Right, without delving too much into the technicalities, let's go ahead and open up this form. Right, so if I just switch very quickly to grid view, you'll see that we're looking at data in the tax table. We have the tax codes and the tax descriptions. If I switch back to the master page view, then we can also see that as well as the individual details, we have our managed host control, which is housing the WPF user control that we demonstrated slightly earlier. As I navigate through the records of the tax table, we should see the user control adjust to the current record, and these are the test notes that I punched in relating to this container slightly earlier on in this video. Let's go to a brand new record because I want to put in a few new notes. I'm going to choose our STD, our standard tax rate. I'm going to put in a few in our pan-European multilingual company, I'm going to put in a few notes from a variety of different operators relating to this particular tax code. The first note I'm going to be putting in is going to be in English. So our tax rate is changing next month. Let's copy and paste another set of notes here, and these notes happen to be in Spanish from one of our Spanish operators in our Spanish office. Let's click post on that. And third set of notes that I'll put in happen to come from one of our controllers in the French office. Okay, let's click post on that. So now we have a situation where we've got notes attached to a container, and these are multilingual notes in a variety of different languages. So now let's simulate one of the European operators logging into the system and using the translation facilities. Let's close this form down. And let's change the user's default language to French. Okay, screen got hidden just then. Alright, so just change my user preference here to the French language. Okay, so if I keep the developer workspace open and I just fire up the client should present itself in the French language. Okay, which it does. It looks like it seems to be working. Let's go to the area page and let's go to my WPF test. Okay, and let's find the STD tax code, and here are all of our notes. So we're up, as you can see, all of the screen labels have adjusted themselves to the French language. The problem here is that the data still remains in the language in which it was entered. So we have a mixture of English, Spanish, French. Now I do know a lot of our European partners are multilingual, so they probably wouldn't struggle with this, but I probably would. Imagine we had a French operator that doesn't speak English. What he or she would do is as soon as they click on that particular note, they have the option here to perform a language conversion. Again, if you recall, the initial translation always takes a little bit of time. Okay, so now we have a French translation. I'm hoping that means the tax rate is changing next month, and the same thing for the Spanish phrase. So I should sorry, that does not go to Danish. Excuse me, it goes to French. And hey presto. So that kind of concludes the demo. I'm hoping that was reasonably intuitive. In the follow-up video to this, I'm going to be doing a deep dive into the technology and the infrastructure required to put a solution like this together. Thanks for watching.